So I'm hoping it's going to be an interactive meeting. Feel free to ask any questions and we'll help walk everybody through. So why don't we start? I'm Diane Savage, Contracts and Compliance Unit here at DCYF. We accept and process your invoices along with my team who is on the line here. So let's start with Zach.
Good morning, Zachary Zamorelli, Chief of Program Development, DCYF Contracts and Compliance.
Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Pettit. Yes, I am one of the newest contracts and compliance officers, and I work with Zach, Diane, and Frederick.
Yes, and Frederick.
Good morning. I'm Frederick Craig. I'm a contract compliance officer on Diane's team, working with Lindsay and Zach.
And Lindsay Callahan.
Hello, Lindsay Callahan. I'm the Deputy CFO in the Management Budget Division.
And then how about our IT folks, Rhonda?
Yes, hi, Rhonda McNamara. I'm a business analyst in the IT department, and I'm going to help with the training today.
Okay. Nancy?
Hi, Nancy Saunders, also in the IT department. Hopefully you all received the email from me this morning, and I will be the person you return them to, and your backup go-to when Diane's folks aren't available.
Thanks, Nancy. Clayton.
Hi, I'm Clay Whiteman, software developer. So if there are any bugs with the invoices, I'll probably be the one working on them.
Maria.
Tony, project manager for this invoice change.
Susan.
With the IT department.
Yes, Susan.
Hi, good morning. I'm Susie Anderson. I am a business analyst. I work with the IT department here on the finance side of things at DCYF.
And Anjali.
Good morning. My name is Anjali and I'm the agency IT manager for DCYF.
All right, very good. And now our esteemed providers. How about Ellen?
My name's Ellen Betzer. I'm the controller here at Day One.
Thanks, Ellen. Alem?
My name is Alem. I work for Bethany Christian Services, and I do submit the Bethany invoice.
Rachel?
Hi, Rachel Yoder, and I work for Tides Family Services.
Lisa?
Lisa Conlin, Executive Director, Parent Support Network of Rhode Island.
Thanks. Danny?
Good morning. My name is Danny. I'm the supervisor for the Home Builders Program here in Rhode Island.
And Donna?
I am Donna Peel, and I'm the program manager of Home Builders at Bethany.
Okay, and Phil?
Well, I'm Philip McKee. I work at YAP, and I am a program support specialist through that.
Thanks. Kathleen?
Hi, I'm Kathleen Hoyos. I'm the finance and billing specialist at Day One, and I work with Ellen Betzer.
Great. Very nice to meet you all. So, Rhonda, I guess I will turn it over to you. Perhaps, folks, just for housekeeping, if you can stay on mute until there's a question or something that you need to say, that will help us. Thank you.
Okay, I did notice that, Danny, you had sent a chat that you did not receive an email this morning, so I think Nancy's going to try to get that out to you. She's just going to need your email address. The process that you have today is a blank template that gets submitted, and you're responsible for copying and pasting the 7-Eleven report into the invoice. And then, so, making your updates and changes and then submitting that. What we've done is we've streamlined the process, and it's going to be more accurate billing and invoicing, where we're going to pre-fill the invoice with the information that we have at DCYF, and then you would in turn put in the correct information and then invoice for the correct amount for that month. So today what we're doing is everyone has already submitted their September invoice. What we'd like to do is we've sent you out this morning an email with instructions on how to fill out the invoice, the new invoice, as well as pre-filled what we call generated invoice for each of the providers. What we'd like you to do is mimic what you did for September in this pre-filled invoice. You know, the sooner the better, but we're giving you a week. We were hoping by next Wednesday, everyone could have completed it and then submitted them to Nancy. This is a pilot program, so all of the documentation, all of the emails should be prefaced with pilot. And I believe that was in the email instructions as well. So I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to share my screen. I'll give it a second to load. Can everybody see it? Okay.
Yeah.
What you'll notice first and foremost is the invoice cover the colors have changed. So this would make it easier to differentiate between what the old template is and what the new one is. It's probably not so much something that these providers need because you're strictly home-based, but we may have other providers that have other services and they may be submitting both we get everybody rolled over. So it's just helpful to see if it's purple, it's the new template. The provider name and the invoice period are going to be pre-filled and they're not editable. They're going to be locked down. You would add the submission date and the contact name, contact phone number, and email address. Provider invoice is optional, but if you want to reference an invoice that you use internally here, that's fine. That's what that's for. And then you would add your address. So these are all the editable fields, all the fields that you can add information to. The contract service information section is completely locked down. It contains service categories, FAC IDs, and approved service rates based on DCYF contract information. The total days billed and total invoice amount will get populated based on what's entered in the census home-based tab, which we'll get to. If any of this information is incorrect, then just contact DCYF to get it resolved. And at the end, at the bottom is where you would put your signature. I know some people put in insert signatures. Some people just type their name, but we'll just type today. Are there any questions? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, now we get into the fun stuff. All of the information from the invoice cover header comes forward in each of these tabs, which is great. So you can always reference you can always see the invoice period, and not that you'd get confused, but provider name is pre-filled, home-based service type, FAC ID, child last name, first name, date of birth. We include the richest case ID and the child ID, the case name, and the service authorization number. All of these fields are locked down. They cannot be changed or deleted. So I'll show you different ways that you can report if this particular row isn't correct. First, the service start dates are all pre-filled, based on whether or not the child was invoiced before and they have an ongoing authorization status. It will always be the first day of the month, but this can be changed. So the service date and the end date can be edited. For example, if this child started on 9/15 and they're going till 9/30, the rate is protected as well. And all of the billing days will get calculated and the total cost gets calculated. the sum of the total cost is going to appear here. And that would appear here on the invoice cover. And you'll see as we go through when we use the different FAC IDs. We do have where a service delivery status is required when you have a child in service. In this case, we're going to say ongoing. We have added 2 new service delivery statuses. One would be waitlisted, and this would be used if a child is pending intake. You would never fill out dates when you use waitlisted. There should be no billing for a waitlisted child. And there is new service ended funding source removal. And that is used if the funding source is removed due to a program change or close. Once you choose a service ended status, that child will not appear on the invoice again. We put them in the system as the service is ended, and you won't see them on the next invoice. So make sure that you're correctly identifying the service delivery status, the authorization status. You may find that there could be a child on this pre-filled report that you did not submit for September. If that's the case, leave the dates blank. So for example, this child, and it could be an instance of a waitlisted child, and you could put a service authorization status. But this is not required. If there's no bill, the service delivery status is not required. If you have a child that you submitted for that does not appear, you can add the child after the very last row of the invoice. So all of this is protected, but we have unprotected anything below the last row. And in this case, you need to complete all of the information. We have drop downs for home-based service type and FAC ID. And we'll just put in John Doe. Birthday, all of this is required. And you can get this from your hard copy of your service authorization documentation from DCYF, if you're not sure what it is. Just putting random numbers in here.
Not sure if you can see Maria's hand, Rhonda.
Oh,
Maria.
sorry. Hi, Maria.
Nope, that's all right. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention 2 things to elaborate on Rhonda. The service type and FAC ID is now provider driven. I know in the blank invoice that you were using, you had all the FAC IDs listed. I'm sorry, you had all the service types listed and you entered the FAC ID. Now for each provider, you would only have the service types in that field that you're contracted for and the FAC IDs that you're contracted for. So in this case, you only saw 2 service types and you saw 2 FAC IDs because this provider that's all they're contracted with the department. Any questions on that? The next thing is we did remove some columns. Diane, you might want to jump in if you want. We removed the days child absent hospital bill column, as well as the days child absent hospital unbilled, days child absent from child care billed, and days child absent from care unbilled. These columns were a copy over of the original invoice that was designed for residential placement invoicing. And we learned that these columns were not needed for home-based services, so we removed the columns. I do know in the past Tides has entered information in these columns, but you no longer need to enter the information. You don't need to enter that information anymore. Diane, do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, I think that's pretty straightforward. So if you have a youth that is absent or, I don't know, they go away on vacation or something, you can certainly change your days, but I think the contract is premised on the 30-day a month payment, so it's not necessary to record that detail on the home-based invoices.
Anything
How's
else?
that, Rhonda? Nope. go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually explain, I'm just gonna finish this up here. So this is adding a child. And we'll just quickly put them in as service ongoing. You would have to add the rate here. That does not get pre-filled. And you'll see the filtered cost is going up.
Rhonda, can I just make one point on that service delivery status column? You had said to folks, you know, once you click any of the end reasons, that is going to end your authorization at DCYF. And that would mean you would need to seek a new authorization in order to bill if you still have the child the next month. So we just want to, you know, be very careful about that because it will cause confusion for the folks in CRU. And we just want to keep a good eye on that. So just, you know, for your processing efforts, just know once you say end, that changes your authorization number and you would need to seek another authorization number for that, or it won't match for the next month. Thanks, Rhonda.
Well, I'm gonna jump into an interrupted service since it might be a question based on this, you know, not having the absent columns anymore. If a child has an interrupted service, if they went to the hospital or if they were AWOL, for example, that's where you would put the date that they were out of your service. And always keep them as service ongoing for the same reason that Diane just mentioned. Once you do service ended, their authorization would end. And then the easiest thing to do is take that child and copy and paste at the bottom of the report or the invoice. Update your dates. So they came back on the 18th. We can put them as service ongoing. Is that understandable? Okay, I have Rachel.
Hi, yeah, so I think we were the only ones that were doing the disruptions on here the way that they were previously, but I was wondering if there's any updated guidance about when a child's billing should be interrupted like that. Like, is there a precedent on, like, you know, if a child goes to a hospital placement and they're there for more than X number of days, we should be doing that? Or if they're AWOL, that, you know, it should trigger a change in billing after X number of days of an AWOL, just so that we know how to manage it with the invoicing.
Yeah, so that's a good question, Rachel. Thank you. Typically, you know, for any placement services, you know, the rule is 4 AWOL days, you know, can be paid to the provider, you know, while the youth is absent. If it's more than 4 days, then you would, you know, update for that. And then the same thing with hospitalization, it's 14 days, but I mean, again, for home-based services, you know, we are premising it on the 30 days. So you should be, you know, okay in most situations, I would assume, but I know for your service type, Rachel, sometimes you do have youth that are AWOL and things like that, but that's the general rule of thumb. But if you didn't report it, it wouldn't be an issue for us. So that's how that works for
Yeah,
home-based
no, I
service.
appreciate that, because, I mean, just because a kid's AWOL, it doesn't mean that we're not providing the
Right.
service.
Yep, that's right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. One other note that I wanted to make was there could be an instance where a child was billed incorrectly in a previous month. In that case, you can add the child. And of course, I don't want to waste your time here, but I thought it would make sense to actually walk you through it. Just put that. You would put the dates of the month that it was incorrectly billed. And you would make your rate a negative amount. And that would remove that from the billing. And you'll see all this information, 44 days, $74. It comes forward in the invoice cover. This is an Excel spreadsheet, so it works, it has filters. And for example, if you wanted to filter on FAC ID, depending on how big your report is, and you may need to add a child, one of the things that you need to do is you need to select blanks, as well as the FAC ID that you want. So whenever you're filtering, always check the box off for blanks. That way you'll have the option to add a child, add an interrupted service, all the stuff that I just showed you. If you don't click on blanks, it's going to be protected. If a child is on here incorrectly, for example, oh, yes, hi, Maria.
That's what I wanted to get at. If a child's on there incorrectly and not being
Yep.
serviced for the month. Okay, thank you.
Okay. If a child is on here and they were not serviced, I think I explained that you would leave the information blank. But what I was gonna explain was sometimes the child's last name or first name could be wrong, or you could have something different. That would be a good example of using the invoice comments tab. So you would take and copy, and you'll see the columns line up. They start with the FAC ID, but you could basically copy that child. So we'll take child information, copy it into the invoice comments. And in this case, we'll say that the last name is Rayon Grant. Okay. This is going to be very helpful for the contracts department when it comes to invoicing. If there's anything, if you've added a child and you feel you need to elaborate on it or add more information, please utilize the invoice comments tab. There's also a narrative box that you could write anything general related to the invoice. And again, the header information comes forward.
And I
in
do
there as
just
well.
want to stress that to everybody. It's not frequently used as it exists now, the invoice comments tab, but it could save, a lot of emails back and forth to us if there's, something that's just obvious that you need to tell us. So, feel free to use it. We'll always be checking it, but, if that's a good way to communicate with us on that. And the other thing is the pre-filled page. I just for the providers to understand, basically you won't be getting a separate home-based report anymore, the 702 report, because it will be loaded onto your invoice. And this will prevent also issues we might have with folks trying to go in, change formulas. Everything's locked down, and every month you're getting a fresh template. So that should help with some of those issues that you guys have experienced.
Just a correction, Diane mentioned 7:02. On the first of the month, it's actually 7:11 that is
Sorry.
emailed out, not 7:02. It's 7:11. So you will receive an email, continue to receive an email each month on the first of the month. But instead of receiving report 711 and using the blank invoice, you will be receiving this generated invoice that will have the data populated in it. So there will be no more, you no longer have to copy and paste into the blank. You just use the one that's emailed to you. Also, I wanted to state, Rhonda made reference that if the child is not being serviced for the month, you would put the dates may be blank, or you would change the dates to be blank. If the child is waitlisted, you would enter waitlisted as the status. But if you know the child might have left last month, you could leave the line with no dates, but put that the child ended for the reason it ended. This way it will fall off the invoice for next month and you won't have that child on it. All set, Rhonda.
Okay. One other thing as far as filtering goes, which, you know, I know you're all familiar with the way Excel works, but just so you know, when you filter a FAC ID, for example, your filtered cost will go down. It will be just what is filtered, thus filtered total cost, but the invoice cover will remain the actual amount. And you'll see that particular FAC ID is $14, and these are added up to here. I don't know if that's going to be helpful. And we have one additional tab, which right now is what we're calling under construction. But we're going to have an invoice instructions tab, and that's going to include the instructions similar to what you received in your email. It's going to have definitions of home-based service delivery statuses. We're planning on putting up a video tutorial also in this instructions tab. So if you ever have a new person that joins and needs to start invoicing, they can reference that information. So that will be, we're working on it right now. It's not going to be in place for your first billing, which is going to be November 1st. So we're going to send you out your first pre-filled invoice on November 1st. That's why this pilot is important for you to at least take a look at your September invoice and map it to this pre-filled invoice and try to get it to balance with the same total cost that you submitted in September. If you're having difficulty, reach out to Nancy, and Nancy will reach out to the proper person that needs to help from there. And like I said earlier, we would like these returned by October 25th and reference pilot in your email and make sure they go to Nancy. I think I've covered what I wanted to cover. I'm not sure, Maria, if there's anything else.
I believe that's everything. Diane, do you have anything to add?
I don't. Does anybody have any questions, providers? Hopefully this was clear. It seems fairly straightforward, but Rachel?
Yeah, no, it seems very clear. I just wanted to clarify the template that was sent over to Tides only has 2 of our services on it. Is that right? I should just be doing it as the pilot for 2 services instead of all of them.
Yes,
was that
we didn't want. No,
I
go ahead,
appreciate
not
Maria.
in
that.
the-
Yeah, thanks.
That should have
Yep.
been in the body of the email too.
It might have been. I jumped right to the attachments to like
Okay,
dig
good.
into them. So
Yes. So we figured we'd give you a break. We know you have sometimes over 400 rows you enter. We didn't want you to
Yeah, it's a
enter all
lot.
that information.
Yeah.
So you just got the 2 FAC IDs.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
at the bottom, you can delete a prior billing. Can you also include a billing that wasn't included in the month before, I assume? You can do both?
You're referring to a positive entry versus a negative entry?
Both, yes.
Yes, you can do both.
On the bottom, you did a different month for a negative entry. You can do the same thing for a different month for a positive entry, I assume.
Yes, you can.
That's okay. Just
And
wanted to
that
make
would
sure.
be, yeah, that would be a good example. Both of these are good examples as to using the invoice comments tab.
Sure. As we do now. Yep.
All right,
So-
anything else? Yeah.
So everyone has their instructions, and I know we went through this, we did record it, we have a transcription that we'll get out. But use your instructions document. It's very clear. It's very easy to understand, and it will help you through this.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. All right, thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. If you can get those invoices back to us by, next Wednesday, that would be very helpful. And we'll start, hopefully based on everything going successfully, the rollout will happen November 1. So just for your awareness. All right, thanks for your time,
Okay.
everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.